Okay, all good. We're recording. Appreciate that. So this is week 3, and we're starting to talk a little bit more about the mastermind to come. So the Expansive CEO Money Magnet Mastermind is what we're going to call it. Um, what's coming next? So for anyone who is relatively new, I'm Hannah Chapman. I am a certified financial planner, financial advisor, and an entrepreneurial wealth coach. So that's me. That's my little family. My kids, my 2 older kids are going to school, going back to school this week. So I'm in the all of that as well. End of summer, shifting back into what feels like more of a routine. And it feels really good to kind of be in that place again. So for today, we're going to go through some of the options of how we could potentially move forward. I'll talk about that first. So if anyone has questions, you can make sure to ask. And then we're going to go through the sphere of culture. And this is one of my absolute favorites. I was saying before we started recording, I love diving into and looking at the culture sphere because it's how we connect to others. It's how we magnetize others to us and how we magnetize to others as well. And so when we are really living into the gift of our culture sphere, those connections just show up the way that they're supposed to, is what it feels like. So it's really beautiful. Then we're going to go through a meditation. This is one of my favorite things to do as well, is to dive in and see where the blocks are coming up. So we'll do a little bit of a meditation in the middle, and then we'll go through our homework. So that's the map that we're going through. I went through and made this more clear so everyone could see easily what's coming up. So if you want to keep moving forward with the mastermind and keep learning and keep exploring human design, gene keys, all the aspects that really relate to your money magnetism and how you connect with others, how you connect in relationships, that is going to be the Money Magnet Mastermind. And starting in September, our first meeting will be September 5th, literally just a continuation of what we're doing now. And that'll be 111 per month or 555 if you pay in full for 6 months at a time. That'll be every Tuesday, 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern. Just again, keeping it going and really, really leaning into our own contemplation and spending time understanding our own aspects of human design and talking about it together. The next piece that is separate but complementary is the Expansive CEO program, which is the 6-week course to create both inner and outer financial peace in your business and your life. And what it really goes through in those 6 weeks is setting up your business for financial success with proven financial systems, and then setting up your heart and mind for financial success as well. And really going into your motivations and the blocks, again, that are stopping you from making the financial decisions that you know are best for you. It's a six modules, and there's a 7th bonus module as well. So 7 total 90-minute modules paired with live Q&A and coaching support for 6 weeks as well from me. So you do the module and then you come and spend time with me and we figure out what it means for you exactly. That's a one-time payment of $997. If you are just in it for the prosperity sequence and you just really want to know exactly who you are and your uniqueness in the world, we can do that one-on-one deep dive around your prosperity sequence to get clarity around your specific human design, how it applies to your business, all of the intricacies of your life. And we can do that for $1,500 as well. So those are the options with Expansive CEO. So if you have any questions, be sure to let me know. And we're going to, again, get started September 5th. And we also have one more free session next week as well. So we are looking again at the culture sphere today to dive right in. And that's this one right here on your map. So we went through vocation sphere the first time, and then we're shooting over here to the culture sphere. And that is, again, this guy, the golden path. So the pieces with the culture sphere that are so important is that, again, it's with people, it's how we interact with others. And so the important aspects in here are that the sphere of your culture opens or closes you to calling in and building your fractal line, the group of like-minded, open-hearted companions and allies who will aid you in fulfilling your external purpose in the world. Your culture is a yin force that draws others towards you and that draws you towards them. It's a celestial gathering point. I love that explanation of it, because it really does feel like that when you meet people who are that you just know that you were meant to meet in this lifetime, right? That's what it feels like. It's like, oh, we were supposed to be here. All the little pieces that led each of us to this one container. Yes, we were supposed to meet. Kristen, I just saw your question in the chat. Is the 6 weeks of coaching in the Expansive CEO program a group or one-on-one? It is a group setting, but it'll just depend on, however many people are in the program at any given time. It could be an individual one-on-one. It could, be a couple of people in there at a time. Just depends. But yeah, so that is a group setting. And then if you have other specific questions, you can always email me for support as well there. So when we're looking again at the culture sphere, the shadow that comes through. And so this is my culture sphere right here. And the shadow is always going to be coming from a sense of fear and or greed. So that's one of the most important questions that we can ask. Where is the shadow showing up? When am I making decisions in fear or in greed? And the word greed, I want to just talk about that for a moment, because when we hear the word greed, it's like, tell me, like, even type it in the chat. Like, what do you think of when you hear the word greed? Like, part of it comes like Scrooge McDuck, or like, being a miser, someone who just takes and takes and takes and takes, right? And hoards their money. Tightness, control, fear. Yep. Selfish. Yes. Scarcity. Absolutely. So those, those things, you're like greed. And what this is more pointing to, more so even than that, yes, that is an expression of greed, but even more than that, it's like, how are you, I think the scarcity mindset explains it even better in this context, right? So you're not being greedy, anyone in this group especially, right? So when we're here doing this contemplation, you're likely not the person that is over here just trying to grab it all for yourself. That's not likely who you are at all in your expression. But when we think about greed, it's that sense of, is there going to be enough for me? Is there going to be enough for that person to get that client? And then, oh, shoot, now there's not enough for me, right? It's this competitive that there's not going to be enough clients. Or if I meet another financial advisor and suddenly I'm like, ooh, what if this client wants to go to them instead, right? That sense of greed, that sense of scarcity. And it's all tied to fear, that there's not going to be enough. And so the sphere of our culture is asking us, how can we get into knowing that our fractal line, that phrase is really great, our fractal line, the people who are meant for us are there, and that the people who are meant for us will come if we walk in our gift over and over again. Just keep walking in the gift, keep making choices in the gift energy that you have, and your fractal line will come to you. If someone goes to a different financial advisor, that was the right person for them, right? If someone goes to a different relationship coach, that was the right person for them. They weren't on your fractal line for right now. Maybe they are later, who knows, right? But yes, Barry, exactly. The fractal line means you're relaxing, you're allowing, you're surrendering. It's a sense of surrender to, this is, I know what's here for me is here for me. And I don't have to push it. I don't have to force myself into situations so that, force myself onto other people in any way, shape, or form, because the people who are here for me will be there. So when we look at our own culture sphere, we're looking for those clues of what does the shadow hold, and then what is the gift. So again, this one's mine. Is the fractal line on the chart, or is it something else? The fractal line is what we're building out, basically, in looking at the prosperity sequence. So the different, it's like different clues, right? So your we looked at vocation last time. So your vocation is, how you do what you do in the world and walking in the gift of that. And then the culture sphere is who is meant for you, like the people that are meant to be in your world, and walking in the gift there, those people will come to you. When we look further, so the other two are life's work. If we go back here real quick, your life's work, or your brand, also called the sphere of your brand, and then the pearl of how you make money in this lifetime. When we look at the gift of all of those, when we understand the gift in each piece, we call in our fractal line, is the way that I've read and interpreted and heard it said before. So it's not like it's not like map it out exactly like this formula. It's more like keep experimenting inside the gift of each piece. So for me, this one was an interesting contemplation, the gate of opposition, the ability to preserve the ability to preserve individual integrity through opposition to detrimental forces, the gate of the fighter. Like, well, that's weird. I'm not like trying to fight people. So, what does that mean? Do I have to be like in opposition to people? When I'm first contemplating this, it's like, I don't get it. This doesn't make sense until we start to look through and look at more of the nuance. So the shadow for me is struggle. And the repressive side of that is defeatist. And the reactive side of that is aggressive. So for me, this is with people. Our culture sphere is about our relationship to other people. The shadow would be, when do I feel like I'm struggling in a relationship? When do I feel like I'm in either a defeatist, like, ugh, just let them do whatever, right? Just let people walk all over me. Or just, stop fighting for what I believe is right and just let it go, right? That's the defeatist side. The aggressive side would be, where am I feeling angry? If I'm in a struggle with someone and I'm feeling angry about them, feeling angry about, something they said or did or didn't say or didn't do, whatever that is, that's all part of the shadow for me with people, when I'm with other humans. The gift of perseverance then is to keep being present, stay present, clear my own self, right? When I'm in interaction with others, so that I can be a clear channel to understand what they need and to persevere through being present and allow. And then that will also then help point me towards, is this person, someone that I need to be in community with? Or is this someone just a passing, like a pass through, right? I see you, Thank you for being here. We can not keep going. Or is this someone where, yes, I feel that connection where I can help you and I understand that because I am present with myself. And so that makes sense to me. And that is where it feels very aligned and very easy when I am with another person to understand, right? Is this I am here to help you in this moment? Or is this hey, I'm here to help you for longer? That starts to become very clear when I'm present with myself. Barry, yeah. So tell me, what is yours? What's your sphere? What's your gate? And then what's the shadow and the gift for you?
For me, it's 46, line 2. But the thing that cracks me up is that um, my gift is delight, but my shadow is seriousness. I'm just laughing because I know that one so well. So, and it's interesting because for me, I realize that I find myself, in a sense, having that tenseness, that thing about the greed thing, that tenseness and that attachment and that control thing. That's what is for me what seriousness brings. So in a way, there's a sort of a bleed through into that.
Exactly. Yeah. That's and we're going to get to that in a little bit. Like in the shadow, where do you see that fear and greed showing up in the shadow? So that's exactly for you. If you're in like a serious mode, is that attached to the fear or the greed? Is that what you're
In a
saying?
way, because what I notice is when I want is a desire or want to connect with somebody or somebody I saw or something I want to do, someone to connect or be around. When it doesn't happen, I start to get tense. I get serious. I get hooked in versus detached and relaxed and in the delight, which is like such a great word to use because for me it requires being um, loose and limber and playful.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so much simplicity in it, but also so much depth at the same time. So I'm just enjoying that understanding.
Yeah. And then to put that into the context of your work in the world of being a relationship coach,
Oh yeah,
like just the whole next layer, right?
of
Um,
course. Yeah, this is just it brings up so much wonderful gifts of just sitting with it and noticing how it percolates through. Because I do know that in my work, my joy is when I'm in ease and grace with my clients and it's flowing and I'm just able to be in the joy because I recognize that it's about love and it's about understanding, it's about all these wonderful things. But when it's a client who is not willing to do the work, I start to get serious. I get attached. I get caught up in the control. And it's
yeah.
like, so I know I can choose differently, but I'm watching back certain times with clients how my own internal state was out of alignment because I was buying to something that wasn't true, or I was buying to their perception versus my own. Like when I stay true to myself, it's easy.
Yeah.
But the tie in to trying to fix them when they don't want to be, quote, fixed is painful,
Yeah.
you know?
So what was your number one more time?
46 2.
46.
Yeah.
So 46, the repressive nature is frigid and the reactive nature is frivolous.
Frivolous. Interesting.
So yeah, so that would be so the repressive nature, all repressive natures are in one sense or another frozen. Frigidity here is used not so much in the sexual sense, but in a much broader context to describe the freezing of one's sensuality. These people hide
Yeah.
from life out of fear and from their own bodies.
The word I got was stiffness,
Mhm.
like that rigidity, that sort of feeling. So
Yeah.
frigid was the rigid sort of thing in sense. Yeah, I get that totally.
And then the reactive nature of frivolity is an overreaction to seriousness. These people pretend to really enjoy life, and from the outside, they appear to take nothing seriously. However, if you scratch the surface of such a person, you will find that they are, in fact, highly emotionally reactive and harbor a huge amount of anger.
That is where my sarcasm comes out. I know
Mm,
that one so well. I was talking to Mara about that recently because I had an email exchange.
yeah,
And I was totally coming from a place of suppressed pretend niceness, but suppressed anger. And it was coming out of sarcasm. It was easier. And because
yeah,
that's we grew up in England, that's one natural state. Is sarcasm is how we always defended ourselves.
yeah,
So to have that frivolity, such a light-hearted term, but it's so angular and sharp-edged and And it's about betterment. It's like me being better than them because I can be more like nimble, but not in a healthy way. So there's some, yeah, it's unpacking. This is fun. Thank you.
Interesting. Kira, that's from this one, the main.
I have that one. Yeah.
And yeah, so let's do just a couple more. Arthur and Kira, we'll look at yours together. And so when you go through, so in 40 and 46 in berries, like it'll have the information, and then there'll be a reactive, the repressive and the reactive will be in the shadow. So Arthur 34, look at that one real quick. This one, the beauty of the beast is what it's called. Love that. The shadow is force, the gift is strength, and the siddhi is majesty. So the side of force, again, with people, culture sphere is always with people. The bane of trying. So that's force. The 34th shadow concerns the notion of individual human power. And where it's the place of trying to force yourself onto others in some way, shape, or form, where you are, getting your elbow in the door and prying it open and saying, hey, I'm here, rather than allowing the invitation, allowing someone to, allowing a relationship to unfold, maybe, if you put it that way. Where the gift of strength, it says, when the 34th shadow gives way to the 34th gift, a truly beautiful archetype emerges, human strength. What's fascinating about the connection between the shadow and the gift is the incredibly fine line between these two activations of the same essential energy code. The difference between the shadow of force and the gift of strength is both minuscule and enormous. The 34th gift employs the same primal vitality, but unlike the shadow, it does so through appropriate activities and a correct timing. So instead of forcing yourself into the door, right, it's ringing the doorbell and allowing the person to open it. The repressive nature, if we go back to the shadow, the repressive nature is self-effacing, and the reactive nature is bullish. So self-effacing would be you're letting others walk all over you. All of your magnificent individual power within this archetype is held back, often because of a difficult childhood. Thus, all energy within these people becomes backed up, leading to tiredness, lack of energy, all of that. The bullish nature, the reactive side, would be the reactive, angry side of the shadow manifests as a bullish or bossy nature. These people who use force, these are the people who use force to bully others around. Those are the two sides. So when do you find yourself either bullying others or allowing yourself to be bulldozed? Those would be the reactive or repressive. And then how can you move into the gift being, that knowing that you have strength and just using it at the appropriate time? What are you hearing or feeling from that, Arthur?
Can you hear me, Hannah?
Yes.
That was quite beautiful. It's about timing and appropriateness, which is not my strength. But I think I am kind of like a bully to people, not deliberately, but it's just kind of how I interact with people. I'm kind of forceful, and I'm learning how to um I wouldn't say be nice, but like how to like just do things appropriately to the situation of what's the best for everybody involved. And it's a lesson that I have to keep learning because I definitely haven't mastered, but I think that's what your book is implying that I need to do. Like just find the appropriate force, appropriate timing, appropriate everything, and then just going in. I mean the force is strong. I'm a strong person like inside. So I have to use the right thing for the right time for the right people instead of just, okay, I want that, and then just going after it, and it doesn't matter if all the bridges are burned. So
Right.
something like that.
The other thing that was coming to mind, Arthur, is the being in nature and communing like with wild animals. for example, or any animal. An example came to mind from, when I was in college. I love horses. I love nature in general, but I really love horses. I had a friend who they had a good sized pony. He wasn't tiny, but he was a pony, but the family didn't like him. So this thing, they took care of him, they fed him and all that, but they just always talked so badly about him. And he was a little bit ornery. And I just went and stood with him. I just stood next to the fence for probably a good couple of hours because I just wanted him to be comfortable around me. I really wanted to meet this horse. And that's all I did. And I talked gently and I just stood and I didn't force myself on him. I just stood by the fence. He eventually kind of was like looking at me and he's like, okay, I see you over there. The next day, he had come all the way up from way back in the pasture, all the way to the front, waiting for me. And that was the invitation, like, hey, come see me. Hey, come give me carrots.
So are you kind of implying I should treat people like how you treated that horse? Or you mean literally I need to be with animals? Like which is the case?
Maybe both. Maybe both. The thing that will allow you to practice patience with others.
Oh, my favorite word, patience.
The sense of people will come to you when they recognize your strength, right? The strength is the gift. And that you are available and ready without, again, jamming your elbow in the door and forcing your way in.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It is a beautiful gift. Kira, let's look at yours real quick, and then we'll move on to the line designations as well, because the line designations are really impactful for the culture spirit in particular. So Kira, yours, the totality is the gift. What number is that one?
It's 28.
28.
The game player, apparently.
The game player, embracing the dark side. This one is called. The shadow is purposelessness. The gift is totality. The siddhi is immortality. So the shadow of purposelessness, the theme of purpose is a notion that lies central to this entire work on the 64 gene keys. In following your true purpose, you unlock the manifesting power of your specific gifts. However, there are forces in the world that directly challenge your ability to find your purpose, much less follow it. The 20th shadow of purposelessness represents your potential nemesis in this regard because it can ensure that you either never find your purpose or you never follow it through. The shadow cuts to the core of the deepest of all human fears, the fear of death. All fears can be reduced to this one fear. It's the fear of being extinguished, the prime emanation of human fear. The repressive nature of this one is hollow, and the reactive nature is gambling. So on the hollow side, when you repress the darker sides of your nature, your life appears hollow and devoid of real juice. To turn away from your fears is to live a lackluster existence with no deeply felt sense of purpose. Your life may be glamorous and successful or dull and mundane, but it has no center. Such people often try hard to appear happy and easygoing, even to themselves, but to anyone who knows their own dark side, they hide nothing. The deeper you go into your fears, the more you feel the authenticity of others. Those who will not face their own demons live a half life, unaware of how transparent they are. These people often pretend to be happy or evolved, but they lack the depth and deep understanding of those who have dared to look into the deep, dark mirrors of their soul. Oh, it's deep. I read the whole thing. The reactive nature of gambling, the reactive side of this is risk-taking. These people react to the fear that they feel by transforming their fear into activity. This results in rash and impetuous acts that temporarily cloak the fear. Such people quickly become addicted to this risk-taking pattern and live their lives to the other extreme at such a fast and unpredictable pace that they cannot stop and examine the fear that is driving them. The gift of that, so moving from that feeling of purposelessness into the gift of totality. The gift of totality is a wonderful gift to have, and it belongs to anyone who really knows how to trust in life. Totality means to live alongside fear, to live with the unexpected, and to stay open to continual change while remaining committed. So living alongside fear and staying committed to your goals anyway. Totality is the balance between the extremes, one extreme that cannot change and the other that cannot commit. The gift of totality means to embrace the whole of your nature and the whole of life, the pleasure and the pain. What are you taking from that so far, Kira?
A lot. It's very impactful and beautiful, like Arthur said. I was confused by the word totality. But while you were talking earlier, I think I kind of worked it into my head that it is like the complete package of walking alongside fear. And also in the concept or in the context of the siddhi being immortality, I think it also is useful to see totality as being like, I don't, whether or not I find purpose, my purpose, the shadow piece, purposelessness, if that's a part of my life for a long time or not, like I get to do this again. Like in this lifetime, I'm a believer that I get to do this life as many times as I want to. So when I accept the fear piece and just like live this life as it is right now, then I think that's the part of the totality for me. So thank you. I was just confused by the word, why it would be totality. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, sometimes the wording itself is like, we need to read into it to understand what it's saying. Yeah, so with people, again, the culture sphere is how you interact with others. When are you feeling either that hollowness or that risk taking, right? Like, when are you feeling that amongst other people is the question of the culture sphere. Or where is it leading? And this one was really on point here because it's about fear, right? The fear of death. And so where is that coming in to your decision making with regards to how you approach others, how you interact with others? Where is that fear coming from? Or rooted in that way. So let's look. Does that help? Do you feel?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm very curious to learn about the lines. So
Okay.
I'm super excited for the next part.
Exactly. So let's look at that because the lines in the culture sphere, this is one of the places where a lot of people get a lot of benefit from knowing, okay, where do I go find clients? How do I do this? What's, am I supposed to be working by myself? Am I supposed to be in a large group? And so your line designation, so for me, it's 4. And when I learned this, I was like, oh my gosh, duh, that makes so much sense. I feel so at home in networks and in connecting people and in connecting people from different networks. Everyone on this screen is like from like at least 3 different places in my life. And you're all coming together on this one screen. And that's part of my line 4 right there. And so if you are a line 1, then you are the consummate entrepreneur, the autonomous, do it on your own, solopreneur. Like that's what feels good and feels easy. If you're a line 2, you tend to feel like you need someone else with you, right? Having a partnership, working with someone that you can bounce ideas off of, that you can work together, that feels really supportive. Barry, for you, what do you feel like with that, with partnerships? How do you notice that happening? Or is that something to contemplate?
It is, well, because first of all, I love the networking. That's one of my favorite things, to be in group and connection. That's why I thrive. That's why I love being in the ESP group and other places too. The partnership piece, it's what's I'm looking for? It requires effort. I mean, the thing is, for example, I co-host 2 podcasts, as in co-host. I don't do them on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them I was invited to join, and one of them was totally yes from the beginning. The other one's becoming a yes, but I'm also clear there are quite a few no's. So for me, it's the discernment navigating that partnership route. It's absolutely true. I did hold for quite a while that my work would thrive when I was in relationship with my business and personal partnership, like being in love with somebody who also does the work with me would be ideal. But that's going to take longer than I planned. So I'm looking at partnerships other ways too. So this is definitely something to contemplate for me.
Yes, and that could be, that's yeah, I talk to people all the time about literal business partnership and what are the pros and cons and how do we do it, and there are different ways. You don't have, it doesn't mean you have to, form an LLC together, right? Like that's not what that necessarily means. But yeah, it could be a close collaborator,
Mhm.
right? People that you work together like this without being legally tied. And it could also be like, yeah, this is a solid partnership and we're going 51-49, never go 50-50. That's my financial tip for the
Thank you
day.
for that, Keith.
Never be 50-50 in a partnership. It just isn't isn't a good
Someone
thing
needs
to
to
find.
be decided. Yeah. The thing
Right.
about that also, I discovered that I've had partnership relationships with like publishing partners and other people I work with in different spaces, but I'm also aware that those partnerships are not permanent for me so far. They've been ones that have transitioned. They go full force and they sort of fade away.
And that,
And whether or not that means we just outgrown each other, it just doesn't. It's like it's a finite experience I've discovered in some of partnerships.
yeah, fascinating. So
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of 6s, and that's fascinating too. Tim, I totally see a 1 for you. That totally makes sense. Kira, another 4. Yeah, so the line 3, I haven't seen any line 3s yet. But if you're a line 3, that's a small groups, right? You work best in little intimate groups, or maybe if you're a coach, like working in small group settings might feel really comfortable. Line 4, networking. So I love networking. I love connecting people, and being in multiple networks. That's another piece that just feels really natural to me, is being in multiple networks and connecting people from those different places. Line 5, Kara, yeah, line 5, society, global impact, big business, vast networks. There, yeah, Melanie's comment there, working for the best of global societal impact. Yes, that is a big aspect of the line 5. Line 5, the other examples were like politics, big business, politics, things that run big portions of our economy and our world, for better or for worse, right? It doesn't mean they're doing a good job of it. It just means that currently that's the big leadership in the world. And so if you're a line 5, if you're in shadow, you move into the greed of that very easily, of the greed of politics, the greed of big business. We see it there very clearly. And so when you're in your gift energy instead, especially if you're a line 5, think about how impactful that is. If everyone who is a line 5 was walking in their gift all the time in big business, in politics, like how much societal change that can create. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Melanie, yeah, the apolitical side, but you work with business owners, so there's that. And then the line 6. Oh, Sebastian, are you a line 5 as well? What are you?
Yes, line 5.
Uh-huh. Totally makes sense. For you as well. Your mind is always thinking about global impact, about global consciousness, about raising, raising the consciousness of the planet, right? That's very line 5. Line 6, I'm surprised at how many line 6s we have here. The line 6 is systems, nature itself, everywhere and nowhere at once. So technically it's situationally flexible. You can drop in wherever, and any of these can feel like at home and also not at any given time. You can drop in and then you can lift right back out and go be autonomous. Because instead of being the example in the book here, this one was where line 5 is, it could be the expression of organized religion, for example, big, societal, huge. Line 6 is the mystic, where it's not about your relationship to the religion itself, to the group. It's about your relationship to self and the divine. So I really, that one really made sense to me as well. Like large group, large religion versus mysticism, You can still have a whole lot of mystics together, but if you get a whole group of mystics together, they're all, connected to themselves and a higher power, and helping others to connect to that way as well. Oh, Tim, that is interesting. Find it interesting that my culture is 37.1 about family and community, but on a line 1. Yeah, that's interesting. How do you love yourself? And how do you be whole and complete in yourself while also being with your family, with community? And I think the corollary to that is that is right, that we can only really change ourselves. Yeah. Versus trying to change others. So change within yourself and then being the model.
Yep.
The line is about how we go about business purpose, not about who our audience is. The line is yes, how we connect with other people most easily is a better way to put that. So again, the individual is going to be like, okay, I one-on-one is going to feel really comfortable for the most part. Again, line 3, so that would be in small groups. So you might also find your clients in small groups, right? You might find your clients by being maybe one-on-one feels uncomfortable for some reason, but small groups where you can have conversation is where you're more yourself. Again, yeah, line 5, again, you might be really comfortable in larger settings, in talking on a bigger stage, that kind of thing. But yes, it's about, it does have that kind of dual purpose of how you do business, but it's because it's how you relate to others. Does that make sense? So yeah, love the line designations here. What time is it? 3:48. Okay, we're going to do just a quick meditation together to see. So I want everyone to kind of like look at your shadow and then look at your gift and kind of have those in mind. And then take a nice deep breath together and we'll do a quick meditation. So I always like to warm up my hands, put one on my heart, one on my belly. And this really helps you connect in with your body, actually feeling your body. And take a deep breath in and let it go. Take one more deep breath in and let it go. And starting from the very, very center of you, there's a bright white light. And let that bright light extend through your heart and glow brighter and brighter until it fills up your chest and glows brighter and brighter and fills all the way up to your throat, all the way up to your crown, all the way down your belly, all the way down through your legs, down to your feet, until you're enveloped in this beautiful white light. And from this space, we're going to walk down a beautiful staircase. We're going to step down, 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 down the stairs. walking down through the ages, down through your 50s, down through your 40s, 30s, 20s, walking down, down, down until you meet your 10-year-old self at the bottom of the stairs. And you take them in. And when you see your 10-year-old self, notice where you are. Take a look around. See the situation that you're in right now. Notice what it looks like. Notice what it sounds like. Is there a smell? As you look at your 10-year-old self, ask them just one question. What does it feel like to make friends? Notice how you feel in your body about connecting with other people. And is there anything that they want to share? Anything that makes them afraid? And now I want to thank our 10-year-old self. If they'll allow it, wrap them in a big hug. Say thank you. Thank you for sharing with me. Allow them to melt right back in. And as we turn to go back up the stairs, every step we take up through our teens, up through our 20s, up through our 30s, all the way back to the age we are right now, incorporating all of the wisdom, all of the experience, all of the beauty that we've lived. And when you come back up to this space in this bright white light, take a deep breath in, take it in, and let it go. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back into the room. Is there anything, did anything come up for anyone, especially with regards to connecting with other people, that you'd like to share? Arthur, go ahead.
When I was 10 years old, and I remember this very clearly, I had no friends basically. So it was what I thought, how do I make friends when I was 10 was I was willing to pay any price to meet people that I consider friends. And if something's valuable to me, anything, not just friendships, I have to be willing to pay any price for it. And that's when I know I really want it. If it's just, oh, I'll just do this little thing, it's like it doesn't end up that well for me. So that was an interesting thing.
Yeah. I wonder how that connects also to this idea of force. If I want it bad enough, I have to go for it.
Uh,
Forcing the issue.
so wait, I'm confused why you brought that up.
That sense of what you said of if I want it bad enough, I have to go for it.
Yeah, just do it, the Nike thing.
Just do it, right? And so yes, when it comes to friendship, when it comes to relationships with others, right? There's a layer of softness that needs to be added to the just do it.
Oh, okay. Thanks for making it so direct. I'm a little thick when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Melanie, go ahead.
Yeah, so if I'm talking to my inner child, my younger self, making friends is very hard for me. Mostly because even as a little kid, I was like, I don't have time for these kids, these peasants. Like, I need to be with adults. I'm also the oldest kid. So it was more of like, you paid your dues, you did what you had to do when you were a kid, but now life is easier. We have the internet, so it's just easier to meet people. Even when it comes to making friends. I'm not gonna say I think I'm better than anyone else here. I'm just saying you get to a certain age where you're like, okay, is this person worth my time? Like, are we gonna be able to be a partnership at some point? Do our values align? So I'm grateful that the younger version of me didn't fully grasp it, but I kind of intuitively always had it with me. So
Interesting. Beautiful. Barry, last one.
Real quick, what came up and I joined the dots is, for me, it was about trust. When I was 10 and around that time frame, building friendships was a high risk game for me. Like, I didn't trust people very well. So I had that sense of tentativeness, holding back, don't fully commit to friendships because I didn't know which way they would go. And I got proven out to me several times when I got bullied in high school. So later on, that showed up. Or I definitely felt that insecurity, which I realize is playing out now in some ways too. As much as I've made plenty of friends, lots of people I'm connected with, there's still a part of me in the back of my mind going, can I trust them? So I know they're still in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a perfect segue into your homework. Where is the shadow of your culture sphere? So what's the shadow? What's the gift? And the shadow of your culture is going to be where you're making decisions from fear or greed. And the gift emerges when you move back into service. Where can I be of service? So that first step, awareness, always awareness, acceptance, action. The awareness of where are you seeing that show up in your life again? And the acceptance part. So that's what we just did in the meditation, bringing that piece in, giving it full love and acceptance, thanking it for its wisdom, and then moving and taking action in the gift instead. So if you're here, I think everyone has been here before, but just in case, if you need any charts or anything, you can send me your birth date, time, and place. But again, I think everyone here has everything so far. Oh, the last slide again. Yes. Go ahead and take a screenshot of that if you need, and I will email you the homework as well after this. And just a reminder, in 2 weeks, next week, we're going to go over the Pearl. So we're not going to get to go over the Life's Work, which the brand, which is wonderful. Also, we'll go over that in September. Next week, we're going to go over the Pearl. And if you want to keep going, make sure you let me know so that we can start to fill out the mastermind group of who wants to keep learning, moving forward. And if you have any desire for any of the other aspects of the work that I do in the world, I am happy to talk to you about that. So it is 4 o'clock on the nose. So if you have to go, you are free to go. And if you have any questions, I have 15 minutes to hang out. Any questions? Does anyone have any, would they like to go through their own?
Yeah, I have one.
Yeah.
And I think somebody else brought up a similar situation today. Like, what do you feel like, or how do you work through when something comes up that you just feel like, oh, that doesn't fit at all? Like
Interesting.
so many things I'm like, oh yes, that's it. But then like my vocation sphere, I was like, that just doesn't jive for me. So how do you work through that?
So the interesting piece about human design and gene keys in particular is that they speak to our true self and our conditioning. And so it could be an aspect of maybe a misinterpretation first, right? That could be the first thing, like, okay, we need to read a little bit further and see if there's another interpretation that we need to look at. Or it could be a conditioning piece where you're like, I don't see that in myself, but it's covering up a layer of trauma, covering up a layer of protection, right? Like it's I'll give you an example. When I first learned about the Enneagram, I thought I was a 3. I was pretty sure I was a 3. And in my very much armored and protected state, I moved like a 3. That made sense. And then after I had, a couple of years, I had worked on deconstructing a lot of that armor. Someone said, someone who was like an Enneagram certified person was like, I don't see you as a 3. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, maybe just try the test again. And I align a lot more with a 7. Which was really interesting to me. So one of the reasons I love human design is that it's like, it just is, right? It's like, here's your birthday, here it is.
Yeah.
But I think it can speak to when we don't see it reflected in ourselves, a piece of armoring that we haven't quite worked through yet. And it could also just be like, oh, I don't have all the pieces yet to understand what that means. What do you feel from that?
Yeah, it makes me definitely want to go back and take another look at it. It came up in my vocation sphere, and when I read it, I was just like, oh, and I watched a couple of videos, I'm like, So I don't know. So I may just need to work on it more.
Yeah. And you can send that over to me too.
Okay.
What questions you have? I'll look at it.
Thanks.
Kira, what's up?
I would just like to see a slide again on the one with there's 2 questions on it. One was, where are fear and greed keeping me in my shadow? What was the other question? What does it look like to step forward in your gift? Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yep. That's always, for me, when I'm teaching or walking anyone through something, the identifying the issue is always incredibly important, right? Like, that's what helps us see and understand what's going on. But if we just sit in that's where I feel like we get stuck. Or, you can like start ruminating. I know for me, I was a ruminator. And so I'll ruminate on it versus allowing myself to see and accept, and then what's the next action step. And so that's always been really important to me, is to give enough time to sit with the feeling, sit with the acceptance of it, but then also move forward with the action step. Like, that's the progression. Just for transparency of why I've had that on there. Sebastian, what's going on, man?
So question is, loved everything, by the way, so thank you. And question about what I identified during the meditation was anger when people are moving slower than I would like. And going back in childhood, I know I felt that. I'm not necessarily sure where that came from, or I would not have thought it would have been that much of a, deep thing. So yeah, I'm a little cloudy on that, which I think is a good thing, because that usually means it's you know, the right thing is hidden in there.
Yeah. What was your gene key of your
31.
um,
31.
sounding your truth
Okay.
is the name. Arrogance is the shadow. Leadership is the gift. Humility is the siddhi.
Hmm.
And so if we look at arrogance, repressive nature is deferring, and the reactive nature is scornful. The reactive side to arrogance is based on anger rather than fear, and it emerges as a kind of haughty scorn. This more traditional brand of arrogance assumes itself to be above others because it sees how easily they are conditioned and can therefore be manipulated. What such people miss is how deeply they themselves are caught up in the same conditioning, since they have a deep-seated need for recognition. Unfortunately, no amount of recognition can ever feel good when it comes from those whom you take to be inferior, so these people remain scornful of the very people they influence. This in turn makes them even more angry and disrespectful of human beings. What does that feel like? Does that hit on anything for you?
Yeah, I can definitely relate to the theme, you know, throughout my journey. And in this particular case, it doesn't feel like a better than others type dynamic. It feels like, especially like going back to the kid, it's like, say we're all working on a project and it's not moving fast enough. Like it feels like either people aren't getting it or we have to repeat things, that type of thing. So that's what I linked it to, is like speed, like wanting to go faster.
Do you hear in your language how the better than is coming through?
Yeah, this is how I feel. You know, I feel like it's not from that place. Like it could be there, you know, in the language. Like sometimes I can definitely own, like I've felt that inside. I'm like, whoa, okay, there's that. In this scenario, it's like, yeah, if we're moving somewhere and it's like almost like the brakes are on in certain areas.
Yeah,
I don't know if
so
that makes
here's the tie, I think, in with the gift, because the gift is leadership. And so the gift of leadership is asking, where are you? This is what it feels like. Where are you forging ahead? Like, say you have the flashlight
right.
and you're the leader, and you're like, y'all are too slow, and you're just forging ahead with the flashlight. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, now I got to go back because they don't have the flashlight. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna go back and pick them back up so that we can move forward together. And so the gift of leadership is moving from that place of they're not moving fast enough, or whatever the
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
that is, to okay, to be a true leader, meeting them where they're at and moving, whoever you're with, moving in step with them, moving
Hmm.
at a pace where they can go with you rather than be like, I'm out of here, guys.
Right.
What does that feel like?
Yeah, definitely makes sense. Like that's exactly it. So instead of seeing that as the friction, seeing that as the role,
Mm-hmm.
feeling that, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I get it intellectually, and I've come to this, something inside hasn't clicked of feeling that, you know, because I feel like if instead of it being like a friction point, it should maybe feel like an opportunity, like, oh, this is part of the role, like this is a good thing. But it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah. Okay, so another piece of this, the 31st gift, like all the gifts, represents a huge step beyond the intellect and into the heart.
Yeah.
Only the heart really perceives the collective suffering that comes from being marooned in your intellect at the shadow frequency. Thus, your natural urge is to help others escape that suffering in some way. Furthermore, since the 31st gift is the gift of understanding the masses and the language of the shadow frequency, it naturally uses this gift to help draw others out of the codependent victim patterns and relationships of the lower frequencies. The 31st gift still carries an agenda, that agenda is to help people out of the narrow neurolinguistic confines of their own conditioning. No one understands the specifics of conditioning quite like the 31st gift. Yeah, so that's literally saying that you understand, right? You see those patterns, and the gift of leadership is leading people out of it. And so meeting them, that's what came to me while I was reading that, meeting them where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
Always meeting them where they're at, is what was coming through.
Mm.
Does that help?
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Arthur, what you got?
I have a couple questions. What, you know, that softness, patience thing, like if I join your course, will that help me with that?
It will help you reflect on it more and more. I will show it to you whenever it comes up. That's
how does one like work on patience and softness?
How does one work on patience and softness? It feels like, so in my body, I can feel physically, like in my heart space especially, I'm very in tune with like my heart chakra. I will feel like an activation or a tension when I am like moving out of alignment, right? Or like trying to move too fast, or trying to force something in any way, shape, or form on someone else, right? And that's one of the, working with Marla and the ESP group and all of that, right? Like coming into ethical sales, all that all feels in resonance. Because I can feel it in my heart space. I can feel calmness in my body when I am working in that way. And I feel like this same work in all the other areas, it's like coming into wherever you feel it in your body. Again, I feel it in my heart a lot. Some people it's like gut, or it might be your head or your jaw. It's being able to recognize and then sit with that feeling to understand where it's coming from. So Dominique just put in the chat, it's perfect meditation, opening your heart chakra, balancing your masculine energy to divine masculine energy. Exactly. I agree with all of that, because it's when you are wanting to move, when you're
I'll have to watch the replay, Hannah, because I was lagging throughout the whole thing. I'm like so much in resistance to what you're saying.
That's a good sign. That's exactly it. Yes. That resistance that you're feeling is the space to like sit into, like wiggle into that.
For me, I heard what you're saying. Like it's more natural for you to be the in tune way with your heart chakra. But for me, like I'm naturally aggressive. So for me to be soft and patient, I have to be counterintuitive and go against my nature. That's what it feels like. Like I have to be okay, let me sit back and like smile and like be a nice person. Like I was never a nice guy. Never. So like so it's like wait, let me just relax and my second question, yeah. Actually, I think I answered my own question. I think I need to literally go against my nature while I'm starting to learn this. Maybe later on it'll be more easy for me, but for now it's like the complete opposite of how I do things. My second question, is it sorry, you can't hear me?
No, it might be a pendulum swing, right? Yeah. Like
Oh,
if you're always way over here, it'll feel really weird to come over here and then
yeah.
find your way.
Do you have any options for people with financial difficulty?
We'll talk.
Okay.
Well, yeah, let's talk about it. Since we've gone back and forth a couple of times about some different things. So yeah. What's your second question?
Oh, that was it. That's it.
Oh, that's the second question. Yeah. Let's talk. Kara, what's up?
If you have time, can you go over the repressive and reactive aspects of gate 23 for the shadow.
Yes. Oh, it's a good one. The alchemy of simplicity. I like it. So shadow, complexity. The repressive nature is dumb, D-U-M-B. And the reactive nature is fragmented. So the repressive nature, and in the repressive nature of society, the expression of the 23rd shadow will rarely be tolerated. Wherever you see societies that keep others silent, you are seeing fear at work through this shadow. Dumb. Okay, so dumb as in silent.
Mute. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Depending on how acute the level of fear is, the individual or group will probably never express what they really think. Okay, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
Language will be held back either through internal repression or external oppression. It's interesting that the modern meaning of the word dumb has come to refer to a lack of intelligence, because that's often how such people are perceived. But if you're choked by fear, you cannot speak clearly, if at all. And so these people slowly learn not to say what they really think, instead lapsing into silence. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The reactive nature is fragmented. The other side of the shadow is the expressive nature, which often cannot stop talking. However, because there's a general mistiming within their neurology, they create enormous interference and fragmentation wherever they go. These are people who always say the wrong thing, or they say the right thing, but at the wrong time. The language pattern of such people tends to overcomplicate and miss the essential meanings of things. They spend an enormous amount of energy trying to be heard, only to find that they are constantly pushed away. These people tend to talk in circles, over-explaining in an unconscious attempt to conceal the anger that lies within them and not being understood on a deeper level.
Okay, that resonates. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. It is 4:17, so I gotta go. My kiddos have their back to school night tonight, so we gotta get ready for that. But it's so good to see you all. I'll see you next week or before.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hannah. Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.